how I would get to 1,000 followers in 30 days if I had to start over. Obviously, we're speaking about Threads followers. Here is a diagram that goes over this process. I wouldn't blame you if you were thinking this is just overwhelming as fuck. We'll take it one step at a time. To give you some context, I started on Threads with 17 followers, and I had a fear of posting online from being cyberbullied as a kid. As a result of that experience, I hated social media. When I did start on Threads, I had no idea what I was doing, just no social media experience whatsoever. I liked this idea of sharing random thoughts, and I did that daily. It took me 4 months to go from 17 followers to my first 1,000. Point being, what I will be sharing with you in this class is 5.5 crazy steps I would take if I wanted to gain 1,000 followers in the next 30 days if I started from zero tomorrow. Here's a fun aspect to this class, which I haven't done before. I've also planted a trap in what we're going through today and done something deliberately wrong. The first person to correctly say what that thing is in the chat before I announce what the trap is will win a repost from me on Threads with the post. All right. This is broken down into steps, and Yaz will know what this is because we drafted a version of this post together this morning. This is exactly what I would do in 5.5 steps. This is step 1, 0 to 100 followers. And this is the first crazy step. It's follow like crazy. You cannot grow if no one is organically seeing your content at the start. It took me a while to realize this because I was, as I said, I had 17 followers. I was posting and no one would see the stuff. And I was really posting into the void. And I didn't know what was wrong with that. What I later learned is that you really just have to follow a bunch of people to get that growth engine going. And some people, a lot of people actually, are hesitant to do this because they think they need to maintain some follower to following ratio. The sooner you get over that, the sooner you will grow to 1,000 followers. It's as simple as that. How I would do this if I were you, and this is literally exactly what I told someone end of last year, and I give this process to a few of you in Saints College. This is exactly what I do to get that growth engine going. Follow 20 creators per day. And here is tactically exactly how I would do it. Prerequisite, watch this lesson inside Saints College. I will put it in the chat. Check the Google Meet chat to see what that lesson is. You can put me on 2 times speed, bang it out in 9 minutes. But this whole strategy is what I call the welcome to Threads strategy. All you do is follow 20 people whose posts resonate with you. Or rather, the first step is you you search the first thread in Threads. So the search bar, search exactly that term, first thread. And then what that does is shows you the people who have just posted their first thread on Threads. What does this mean? It's like they've just walked into a party and they have no idea who's in the party, what the party's about, or what to do in the party. I'm sure you've been in this position before. I know I have. It sucks. What can you do to make that person feel welcome to the party? On their first thread post, write a thoughtful comment and end it with something like, welcome to Threads. This is the equivalent of going up to that person in the party and being like, oh, hey, how you doing? I'm Lenny. This is what he's about. Would love to show you around. Here's Yasmin. Here's Dana. Here's Marcus. Here's Joseph. This is what we do. If you were that person coming to the party for the first time, would you appreciate that gesture? Give me a reaction if you would. Feel free to say no. I know I would have loved that if someone did that for me when I posted my first thread. So this isn't just a hack. It's like a hack, but paired with much more depth. So that is the follow like crazy part. By the way, this is per day. So you're doing this for 20 creators per day over the 30 days. And I'll give you the maths behind why that number is what it is in a moment. I've said here 80% follow back. I'll come back to that in a moment. It's not just a numbers game. It's about the connection you're building with each person, and it's about just trying to actually get on the radar. So that is step 1, 0 to 100 followers. Step 2 is 100 to 250 followers. And this next crazy step, welcome Shakira, is engage like crazy. Very similar to step number 1, with a few little tweaks that add more fuel to that fire that is the growth engine on Threads. And the TLDR here for this second step is comments basically equal free growth. The key principle is you want to make the first move. And what I mean by that is don't expect people to come and comment on your stuff. If you are around this follower mark or thereabouts, and you don't go and comment on their stuff first, just assume that everyone is shy and they don't want to come up to you at the party and say hello. Maybe you're that person at a party, but if someone was to come and say hello to you, you'd be friendly and you'd probably have a great conversation. You need to be that person who makes the first move on Threads by going and commenting on their posts. Now, this is exactly how I would go about doing that in terms of a step-by-step process. This is how you start to connect with truly like your people. First step is you make a list of 7 keywords that reflect your interests or just anything that you like. If you don't really have a thing, any sort of business plans, you just want to shitpost, just make a list of things you like. Some of my things might be Threads, online community, personal brand, online business, self-improvement, etc. It could also be some key terms like or phrases or clauses, how to grow on Threads, first thread. That's step 1 of this second engagement block. Step 2 is for a given day. So let's say, what is it today? Wednesday for most people, I think almost everyone. What I would do is say, maybe my term is Threads growth, favorite category. What I would do is search for Threads growth on Wednesday. Follow 30 people whose posts I vibe with and check out their profile. If I align with what they do, I'll follow them. And I'll do that just for the Threads growth term. You can make this process even more effective if you prioritize following people who your friends are also following, because it's just like having a mutual friend. In the old days of Facebook, I remember seeing a mutual friend in someone's friends list and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to send them a friend request. Similar vibe. For each person you follow, this is what actually makes the conversion rate effective. It's not like you're just randomly spamming 30 to 50 people a day and not getting anyone follow you back. Comment on 3 of their posts, each person, give a genuine compliment, and one of those comments with the word followed. What is the strategy, the psychology behind this last part, ending the comment with followed? It refers to the principle of reciprocity. A simple analogy is if your best friend gives you a birthday present one year, your birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks, and you want to buy them something nice, then the principle of reciprocity would say that person would want to give you a birthday present later on. The reciprocity thing is the same thing on Threads. You're directly shouting out that, hey, I followed you, I gave you a present. It's making that other person think, oh shit, I guess now they've made that known. Other people can see that they gave me a present. I guess I better go reciprocate, return the favor, and follow them and say that in the comment. What is the why behind all of this? I've tested it. It's exactly what I eventually figured out when I was going through this journey to 1K. And the result was, coming back up to what I mentioned in step 1, if you do this effectively, 80% of people will follow you back. So let's just do some quick math. 30 times 50. So 30 days, you're following 50 people, 20 people in the first step, 30 people per day in the second step, for a total of 50 people per day. And I'll address what you're probably thinking, Lennox, this is a lot. And this equals 1,500. 5. Then 80%, because remember, if you do it well, you can expect an 80% conversion rate. 80% of 1,500, I think, is 1,200. If I'm wrong, someone please correct me. The promise here is 1,000. So we're giving you some wiggle room here, but this could get you from 0 to 1,200 in 30 days. Couple of objections that you probably have in your mind before we move to step 3, step 4, step 5 is, okay, Lennox, this is a lot. It is, but it works And I would prefer to do something that works and go hard on it for 30 days than to just try a bunch of random strategies that I don't actually know work, because you'll see a lot of them on threads. And fact of the matter is, there aren't many other people who have been doing this stuff on threads longer than I have. And I know that this just works. It's guaranteed if you just put the reps in. And it also allows you to build quality relationships at the same time. I still have relationships with a lot of the people who haven't quit threads because of the process I went through in step 1 and 2 back in July, August, September, and so on in 2023. That's how effective this is. You get the numbers, but you also get the depth of connection. So before we move on to step 3, any questions about step number 1, follow like crazy, or step number 2, engage like crazy? Okay. Yaz, I'll just allow you to shout out if I miss a comment or a question in the chat, because I can't see it all the time.
Well, Jeff.
Step 3, 350 to 500 followers. This is the next crazy step. Post like crazy. And this is not to say you're not posting in steps 1 and 2. They're just not really the main focus. And that's what each step here represents, is just what you're focusing on during this period. So post like crazy is, if you don't post, you don't grow, because you've got a little bit of traction by this point. You're still doing step 1 and step 2, knowing that if you do that every day over the 30 days, that will help you get the traction to get to 1K pretty comfortably. So we know we need to post, but what do we post and how do we do it? Dana, you mentioned before, you know how to post, but it's more kind of the what. This is the how, and I'll briefly mention the what in a second. But essentially, 3 times per day is a very good frequency, because it's like 1 in the morning, 1 in the middle of the day, 1 in the evening. You can schedule them. It's hard at the start, just like any new habit. But again, like any habit, you get used to it. If you continue doing it, after a while, it's automated. And that's been the case for me for the last 18 months. What do you post? A one-liner. You would have seen them, maybe like controversial opinion or hot take, or just something that's, as it says, 1 line, but it could be 1 to 2 lines that expresses a opinion. It's pretty much it. A listicle is something that has a hook, gets people's attention, some bullet points, and then a final sentence. And actually, now that I look at it, this right here, and I'll highlight it to let you know exactly what I'm referring to. This that I've highlighted on the screen would actually make a pretty good listicle. I'd say the minimum points you'd want to have in the list is 3, and I've got that. But the elements of it is you've got a hook here that's highlighted, or maybe just the first sentence is the hook. Then this stuff here, what I call the hold, it's just where you're holding attention, making sure people don't leave. And then the last part is the help. The help is, here's the main point you should know, and it's something that kind of captures some engagement. That's a listicle. And then last one, random shit post. Just have fun with it. Because if you don't find a way to enjoy this, then you won't do it for long enough to see the results that you want. And that's just been the harsh truth that I've seen, because a lot of my friends have quit because it didn't vibe with them. So find a way to keep it fun. That's step number 3. Step number 4, 500 to 750. Couldn't really think of a good name for this one, but we've just got long form like crazy. And this is where we can really start building trust and credibility. This is the highest leverage thing you can do on threads, optimizing your profile picture. There are plenty of lessons about how to optimize your profile in Saints College, so you can check those out. But in terms of long forms, where do I begin? It's where you'll get the most followers. It's where you'll get the most conversions from followers to leads. And it's where you learn the most, because if you don't really know how to do them, and no one does the first time, it'll flop. But then you keep doing them, and then you realize a lot, and you learn a lot about psychology, attention, writing, how everything you were taught at school about writing doesn't apply to social media. I learned that the hard way. I'm sure many of you have too. This is a skill that is invaluable, and I could speak forever about that. Essentially, the more time you can hold attention in a positive way the more trust and credibility you'll build with the people you want to establish a connection with. I've already mentioned every piece of content has a hook, a hold, and a help. The hook is where you do a little humble brag and give a bold promise. So maybe you remember at the start of this college class, my humble brag, or not so humble, was like reached 11,700 followers and helped almost 1,800 people inside our free school community. This gives people a reason to listen to you. If you don't give people a reason to listen to you by putting some proof about your credibility, they won't listen to you. Then you give them a promise. So here, my promise is 1,000 followers in 30 days. That's what you want to do in your hook. Then in the hold part, which is like the body of an essay, think about your long form post as having 5 body paragraphs. This lesson has steps. Each step represents a key point or a separate post within the long form post. You just wrap up with some key takeaways. Here were the 5 points we looked at, like what you need to know, and here's what you can do to get more free value from me. And by the way, follow me so you don't miss out on extra posts that I do about this. That's long forms in a nutshell. We can spend hours talking about this stuff, but that's a very simple overview. Any questions about long forms while we're on them before we move to the second last step? All right, step 5, 750 to 1,000 followers. The final step is hook like crazy. I call this first sentence here the 90-10 principle, which is actually 90% of your effort should go into the first 10% of your post. What does this mean? Could you please copy and paste the link to the post I posted this morning beneath this heading here? And kindly, as is doing that, I'll use that as an example to describe what the 90-10 principle looks like in practice. If your hook isn't good, then no one's going to read everything beneath the hook. Let's say the hook is 10% of your long form post and everything beneath it is the other 90%. You got to invert that by putting 90% of the effort in that first 10% because it's that important. It will literally make or break whether anyone reads the other 90% of the content. I still think I personally don't fully appreciate how important this principle is and talking about it now. If you can take away one thing from the class, it's the 90-10 principle. For example, this is one that I posted almost 12 hours ago. Thanks, Yaz. And this is, I'd say, like we spent a while brainstorming different versions of this, a long time, and it's done pretty well. Definitely not my best, not my worst. It pays to put 90% of the effort in the hook. As I said earlier, no one cares about the post unless you make them care. So focus on establishing what your credibility is by humble brags, give them a clear promise. And if you do those 2 things, then you're doing better than most people. That was step 5. Step 5.5 is the 0 to 1,000 followers cheat code. This is the final crazy step. It's learn like crazy. This is where we want to learn from creators a few steps ahead so we can gain 10,000 friends 2 times faster. Best way to do this is to join a friend group. And that's what Editor did. Editor is a part of Full Circle, our paid community. And when she joined, it was 10 days ago, she had 7 followers, and now she's at 425. And that's just by using the principles that we've gone through in this class, as well as a bunch of post templates that we give everyone inside the community. And in essence, what we teach is how to write on Thread specifically, but it applies to any sort of writing online so that you can learn to sell, and that's through copywriting. And both of these things help you win online. And that's what we do in Full Circle. So that is the main kind of body or the meat of the sandwich of this class. We, all in all, to grow like crazy, this is the final kind of takeaway of everything we've looked at so far. And it's your cheat sheet to, that's meant to say 1K, your cheat sheet to 1,000 followers. You want to follow like by following 20 people using the Welcome to Threads strategy. Comment like crazy by following 30 people as well, an additional 30 per day to add up to 50, and commenting on 3 people's posts of those 30. Post like crazy, 3 posts per day, one liner, one listicle, one shit post. That's at around got the thing here. That's at around the 250 to 500 phase. Then from the 500 to 750, that's when you start introducing long forms. And this is where you really start to gain potentially hundreds of followers overnight. If you have one that does really well, took me ages to have one that does well, but editor was someone who had one that did really well from the get-go. You never know. And then finally, hook like crazy. This is where you want to put 90% of your effort in the first 10% of the post, because the first 10% is what will determine whether or not the rest of it gets read. All in all, the consistency of this, and when you blend consistency with a good strategy, you've got unstoppable growth. And that is how I would go and gain 1,000 followers in 30 days if I started on Threads from 0 tomorrow. Dana, I'll allow Yaz to answer if she has any thoughts. But earlier on, I said at the start that there was a trap and there was something that I did deliberately wrong. And honestly, if you blink, you miss it. Do you have any guesses whatsoever as to what might have been wrong or like inconsistent with what I went over in this post?
Maybe not following enough people. Earlier, I said trying to sell too much in the beginning.
Ooh.
Coming across as a sales channel, like you don't care about people.
Honestly, that's a really good point. Yeah, I personally, I didn't do that. I had nothing. I technically only had something to sell up until 2 weeks ago. Like I've been here for 18 months. So I'm not saying that everyone needs to spend that long, but the point is that it definitely helped for me to not have any kind of agenda just at the start, because it allowed me to just actually focus on connecting with people. So that's a really good point. And well, Yaz, any thoughts?
Honestly, no. I was just looking at it. I was like, why do I not know the answer to this? I don't.
Okay. It was too mean and it was really small. But this is a main point when it comes to trying to get some conversions. And the trap was this point here was designed to be a subtle call to action. Because by the way, this is a post. Like what we just went over is a post on Threads. Yaz posted this morning. And this part was actually not in Yaz's post. This part was in my own. Now, why is this a trap? Really, what was the promise of this post? Dana or Yaz, what did I promise at the start? What does it help you do if I
get to 1,000 followers?
Exactly. Here, what am I promising in this call to action here? What's the promise in this one?
10,000.
Yeah. So it's literally just an extra number, like an extra 0. And it's really minor, but it's not the same thing. Someone who wants to grow to 1,000 followers, I think, has a very different mindset to someone who wants to grow to 10,000. I know I did. I wasn't thinking about trying to get to 10,000 when I was starting at 17. I just wanted to focus on a milestone of 1,000 first. And the point is,
say it might feel out of touch or out of reach when you put 10,000. Exactly. Unrealistic. Yeah. Even though it is realistic, people can't see it.
That's it. And the reason why it's a bit of a trap is because to make conversions as seamless and easy as possible on Threads, just make what your call to action is relevant to what your post is about. If I'd literally just deleted the 0 here, so it says 1,000 friends, and let's say instead of putting my paid community, plugging that, I just plugged, actually, here's what the actual version of the plug was that Yaz posted. The faster you learn, the faster you grow. Posting without strategy is like throwing darts blindfolded. still proven framework, study what works. And in Yaz's post, you mentioned the hook book. This is in Saints College. You can grab it for free here. And you can see the shortcut to your first 1,000 followers on Threads. It's directly relevant to what is promised at the top. So if someone has gotten to the bottom of this post on Threads and sees this, they're like, yeah, I wanted to learn how to grow to 1,000 followers in 30 days. I also like the sound of that hook book thing. And this is what the community is promising, 1,000 followers on Threads. So, and it's free. So like, why wouldn't I? And maybe it sounds self-explanatory and pretty straightforward. Took me a while to learn this. Just offer what is relevant to the post at the bottom of the post, because that's going to guarantee the greatest chance of getting most people to sign up to your newsletter or to join your community or grab your lead magnet, whatever. Does that make sense, Dana? Do you have any follow-up questions?
It does. I'm not even on Threads yet. I think I'm trying to figure out the whole goal of it. What's the capability in Threads and all that. So that's what I was going to be getting in your group and learning more about too.
Actually, was that the crux of your question? Because we can go into that, Dana.
Yeah, like I put in my question, I have a B2B business, not really a B2C at all. And is Threads a good place for someone who's B2B, or is it really focused on B2C? Because that's part of why I really haven't done social media a whole lot. Because on my personal page, I have pretty big following for my personal Facebook, for example. But none of those would be my customers in my B2B business that I started in April.
Sure. Okay. People who purchase to place on items and sell those items. Also teach other people that do what I do, how to use Photoshop and how I better. Struggle is what to post since my main target is B2B, not consumer. Can write, record, or come up with imagery. Yeah, it's a subject that hangs me up since I'm B2B. Yeah, okay, sure. So just tell me a little bit more about who the customer is, like some examples of some businesses that you could like sell or serve to.
Okay, so yeah, have you ever been to a fair, a small little carnival or fair, and you see the booths where the artists are selling their stuff? So there will be some artists who might sell cups with fun designs on them. That is my target, is the person putting it on the cup. They don't often design the cup. They just print the cup and they buy the designs. So that's one of my customers. So my other customer is the person who does the design. I help them. I teach them all things tech. So I have an innate ability to get in and learn a program that even when it's very difficult, and how to teach other people how to use that program. So not only do I sell the designs for the person who prints on the cup, that's one business. And the other business is the person who does what I just said. I teach them how to use Photoshop. Some of them will get into this business and they've never opened Photoshop. I teach them how to do AI better, and automation. So I do tech teaching. So it's not just Photoshop. I help them with the tech, whether it's automation, whether it's editing, whether it's AI. Just think of me of the geek side. There's plenty of people who will teach you how to sell, but they be like, I don't know how to use Photoshop, or I pay somebody to use Photoshop. I've been using Photoshop for, I will not date myself by saying how long.
We say a couple months.
Yeah.
We'll just say that. But I'm also really good at teaching and not going super fast. I think I have pneumonia right now, by the way, so that's what you hear in my voice. And yet here I am. I'm dedicated.
I hope you get better soon, but I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I just saw the doctor last night or yesterday afternoon, so I'm working towards it. But so that has been my struggle, is when I see posts on things like this, I see mostly the person that printed it and is trying to reach their audience so that you'll buy this cup, right? But I need to reach that person I need to reach the person who's printing it. I need to reach the person who's designing it for the person who's printing it. And those can be two different channels. I don't need them to be the same channel. It's probably better if they are different channels because it's a completely different customer base. But like, it's hard to post a digital print, and I don't have the equipment to print on a cup. So that's where I just get stuck.
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm just thinking of it from a marketing perspective because that's my background. Customers who are, so you're selling your designs to the ones that print on the cup, are they quite like small business owners or are they
Yes.
bigger companies? So the way I would
No.
see it, I think this is something that a lot of people get hung up on. It might be B2B, but these people are still consumers. So they are your small business owner, they're your
Mhm.
stay-at-home moms or
A lot of times, yes.
yeah, so they're still consumers. And a great model example of this is white label products, print on demand, the MRR space, which is master resale rights. These are all
Mhm.
items that somebody else designs, and then it's a tool or a resource to save time and effort for the end consumer. So when you're
Mhm.
marketing your product, you'd be talking about the fact that it saves time, it's efficient, you're eating their complexity, you're taking that away for them, and you are giving them the resources that they need to flourish in their own business. And then when you're talking to your other kind of client, where you're teaching them how to use Photoshop, how to do AI, automation tech, once again, they're still consumers. You're teaching them core skills and resources for them to be able to use that for their business. So that's how you would market it, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Because I
focus
do.
on the benefits rather than the features, which I know it's not easy with digital products or digital patterns because
Yeah.
you might be thinking, how do I show this off? But what you need to
Right.
target is the buying triggers and why they buy. So the benefits of like, how does this actually help them? Or like, why should I care? So
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I do sell a lot of automation things already. So someone who doesn't know how to use Photoshop can purchase one of my items and they can literally open it and push play and not really know how to use Photoshop, and they can still design.
Yeah. So you're just taking away all of the complexity for them. Your
Mhm.
main selling point because you do have the experience and something that's uniquely different to you that you can talk about as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Places like Fred's, like once again, it's building that personal brand community and showing people that you're there to help them and serve rather than just sell. And that's where you'd be focusing on the benefits and features, benefits rather than features for them. So I think that Fred still is a good platform. Same with Instagram, Pinterest, any of them things, as long as you're focusing on the right metrics to push.
So the question that I have is, so one of the things that someone who designs to be printed, they don't print, they design. You don't want the pattern to look weird where it connects. So you want it, we call it seamless. And I teach a lot of that. And I don't like, that's really a struggle for me, is like, how do you take something that's long form and actually provide value and show them, hey, I will show you how to do it yourself. But if you don't want to do it yourself, you can purchase my action and it will do it for you. And so how do you break that up and make that content to, because everything I sell, I show them how to do it. They only buy it because it's easier when they buy it from me. You're the same, huh, Linux? It's similar,
Yeah. Pretty much.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Just
But
talk about. I don't really hold anything back on
me
Threads,
either.
but yeah, it's really the implementation, the accountability that
Mhm.
actually makes something valuable in today's
Right.
day and age when you can just put anything in chat GPT and get a really solid answer. It's what the AI can't do, at least for now, which is what we're
Mhm.
doing. And
Mhm.
that implementation is essentially what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And that's always my goal, is to just help people. And then where I make the money is I make it easier and I do personal coaching. So I'm helping
Well,
a client right now from never opened Photoshop and doesn't even have her computer organized, from zero to wherever she wants to go. We meet at least once a week.
There you go. So
Mhm.
I always like to think big picture when it comes to a question like this, which is like, what should I be posting? And yeah, really, what should I be posting on Threads? And
Right.
I like to zoom out even more and ask, why should you be posting on Threads, if at all?
Mhm.
And
Right.
obviously, our whole thing is Threads. I know that any sort of social media platform can take a lot of time. You're already doing YouTube, and I wouldn't go and feel right just telling you, like, yeah, just go all in on Threads if there is a better alternative for what you're offering.
Mhm.
Because obviously, you want to be able to get the most output for what you put in.
Mhm.
So, all that's to say, you mentioned earlier you're doing YouTube.
Yeah.
You said you've got a Facebook page, or is it a group?
No, that was just my personal Facebook.
Yeah, personal Facebook.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
And
I
then,
actually ran the Chamber of Commerce here locally for 4 months while we were looking for our new leader. And so
cool.
I have a huge local following. Even the congressman knew who I was, and I didn't know who he was, even though I did know him. But but taking this outside of my local community, I'm a nobody. And I recognize that. So how do you yeah, it was pretty embarrassing when he came up to me. So only locally. Nobody knows that like
Jane,
worldwide. But
the local diva.
but that's just the goal, right? Is I teach even locally. I spent many years helping local business owners. So that is my passion is B2B. And I have fully planned to stick with that. And I know there are small businesses on there. I do really what you were talking about is take a step back almost and just post even I think funnies of we all know what being a small business owner is like versus what they say. It's I'm sure there's I say memes, but it could be written, bringing humor to it, bringing I think that might be good shit posts, right? Like
Yep.
what they say small business is like, what it's really, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, you got stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, even with that, if we look at it from a marketing perspective, that's what we would call top of funnel content. And that's one of the things that a lot of business owners get really stuck with because they have so much knowledge and they just want to vomit it on a page and be like, hey, everyone, look, I'm an expert. But what they actually need to do is post top of funnel content that speaks to the people in their own language. So you see it all the time with places like the big supermarkets like Aldi or even bookstores like Barnes and Noble. When you see what they post on Threads, it's not, look, I'm an expert in all of these things. They share things that are relatable and top of funnel to people. So things that are funny, things that are inspiring. And this is where, let's say you do want to show your expertise a little bit, but you also want to be top of funnel. That's where your listicles are going to come in anyway, because you can talk about the fact that, yes, you are personal coaching. This is the effort you put in, because once again, a lot of people have a personal coach, but they're not really a coach. Yeah, it's very top of funnel content. And that's where, yeah, the memes would work because people will see it and it will immediately, they'll relate to it.
Yeah. So I really like this, helpful for me when I'm looking for first threads, knowing that I am a B2B. Should I be maybe honing that down a little bit that they're business owners versus just consumers so that I'm growing the right list versus just a list?
Honestly, I just focused on connections at the
Okay.
start because
Mm-hmm.
anything is better than nothing. So I would say if you just resonate with what that person is posting about, regardless of whether it's related to this, I say go for it because these are the sort of people that you can grow with over time. And as I was saying earlier, I'm still good friends with a lot of those people. And that's the thing. They weren't like, I wasn't looking at them as leads or, prospects. Like
Right.
I was just looking at them for connections. And along the way, we've helped each other out a lot. Like they've maybe given me a testimonial for some sort of product or service that they could use, or at least saw a use case for it somewhere else. So it's just
Mhm.
stuff that happens later on down the line that
Okay.
it just
I don't-
helps. It helps to get
Okay.
that momentum.
Perfect.
Yeah.